These are my most used tools, the ones that I reach for on a pretty much daily basis. I'm into something in this pile right here. Got quite a few dead trees up here, and a couple of them are near my tree house up here, my deer blind / tree house. Big pine here has definitely been dead for a long time, and it needs to go. This plumb axe here is one of my favorite tools. It was given to me by Todd Walker, also known as the Survival Sherpa. Super nice guy, very generous guy, obviously. I've made it my own, put my little logo in there, but this is a great axe. And it's one of my favorite tools. But using this tool, you gotta be pretty careful, especially when you're working by yourself. Big, heavy, sharp, double bit axe like this, swinging at a high velocity, could easily hurt you really badly if you're not paying attention. We should be investing in good quality power tools because that's what we use now. We have electricity, so let's use that stuff and get our infrastructure built up and our homes maintained using those power tools as efficiently as possible. But we also have to have backup tools such as this. Like I have a chainsaw, and I could come up here with a chainsaw, and I could have had this tree down, you know, in a minute, maybe not even a minute. I could probably have this tree down on the ground and it would be no big deal. But I don't like using the chainsaw unless I need the chainsaw. I like to use the older tools when I can, when it's convenient and when I have the time to do it. It's gonna go. Piece of cake. And we didn't crush the treehouse. So let's talk about some of my favorite tools. I am a homeowner, obviously, so that requires me to have some tools on hand so I can take care of some problems around the house. But I've also worked professionally as a handyman, property management deal. So I've done a lot of home repairs and just a whole gambit of miscellaneous tasks and chores and repairs and stuff. Everything from, you know, bigger construction type jobs to the smallest little plumbing leak, whatever it is. So I think having the right tools for the job is really important, because one day there may come a time when you can't just call a guy to come fix something for you. You might have to rely upon yourself, your own tools, your own two hands, your own skills and knowledge to take care of it. So some of my favorite tools, let's go through them. This is an Estwing 16-ounce hammer. Probably my favorite hammer. This is the one that I grab more than anything else by far. If I need a hammer to whack something, this is what I use. Big jobs and small jobs alike. This is probably what I grab more than anything, a 16-ouncer. I have a bigger framing hammer, a 21-ounce, I think it is, something like that. But I definitely prefer this one much more. I like the straight claw on it more than the curved like finish hammer, because I use this for like a, you know, a pretty rough like hatchet type deal, especially when you're doing demo work. The bigger hammer is better for demo work for sure, but this one takes care of 90% of the jobs. A bin like this one is going to be crucial if you're a guy just starting out, thinking about buying your own home, that kind of stuff, homesteading, that sort of deal. You need to have stuff organized and a way to access all of your tools. I like this Milwaukee box a lot. Open it up, it's got a rubber gasket on it, so you can throw it in the back of your truck, and if it rains, it doesn't matter. Nothing inside of it ever has gotten wet. And in here, I just keep the most used stuff that I need on a regular basis. So everything from drill bits right here. These are all my miscellaneous drill bits. to 3-inch deck screws, which I build everything out of. I mean, if I've built it, chances are it's got these in it. They work great for pretty much all applications. Small finish screws, I use these a lot. Miscellaneous nails, I've got some staples here for fencing and such. And then this is a big one. This is where I keep pretty much all my most used little bits, like this right here, the T25. This one right here, if you're gonna buy bits, drivers, this is what you want right here, the machetes, these silver ones. It's steel MS-291 with an 18-inch bar on it. And I really like this chainsaw. It's been really reliable. It has worked really well. I've done very little maintenance to it. I need to change the air filter and stuff in it, but it's been a really reliable chainsaw, and it's gotten the job done whenever I've needed it to. It's pretty powerful. It doesn't bog down. It slices through pretty much anything as long as you got a good sharp chain on it. Speed chuck here, I think that's what it's called, is what I use for all, that's what all my bits have on them. Even the drill bits, all of my drill bits have that on there because I use this little impact driver. This is the much hated Ryobi here. A lot of the Ryobi tools suck. I'll be honest with you, like the Sawzalls, they are terrible. I've burnt up a couple of them in just a day. So I would never buy one of those, but this little impact driver, this one has been solid. It has not failed me, and I've used it I have driven thousands, literally thousands and thousands upon thousands of screws with this guy right here. And even some of these, I don't have any in here, I guess, but you know, the bigger lag bolt type deals, and it just really gets the job done, and they're pretty inexpensive. I recommend getting the bigger batteries than these right here. These little guys don't last very long, so I would suggest the more jumbo size. But all of your bits, just go ahead and get them with that little speed chuck there, and here's actually a new box of the T25s, not the longer ones, but Makita XPS. These bits last so much longer than everything else. This is my great uncle's splitting maul right here, and this is what I reach for almost every single time for splitting firewood. I really enjoy using this one. I'm the one that replaced the handle in it, and I just like using it, and it's got some sentimental value. So that's definitely my most used splitting tool right there. If you're doing any kind of construction jobs, you're gonna need some sort of level if you wanna make anything worthwhile. And a 2-foot level like this one is the one that I reach for more than anything else. I use it for almost every single job, the 2-foot level here. A torpedo level, the little small ones, and then the big 6-foot levels, those are great. The bigger ones are gonna be more accurate. The small ones are just handy for fitting in small places that this one won't reach. But by far, if you're just gonna get one, if you're gonna buy one level, get the 2-foot level like this one right here. Again, any kind of construction project, you're gonna want some sort of crowbar. I like this one right here. This one is really, really strong. The flat bars flex, and I don't like them as much. This one is the one I prefer, and I use this one more than anything else. Great for pulling nails, great for breaking stuff apart, demo work. Bigger ones are handy for some projects, obviously. Small ones are better for some situations, but this is the one that I use more than anything. My Makita saw here, this has been a real workhorse, man. This thing has never failed me. It has gotten the job done every single time, and I really like this circular saw here. The cordless ones are super handy, and they are nice, but they don't last as long as these corded ones right here. So there is that. So get yourself a good corded power saw and an extension cord, and it'll last you a lifetime. I keep all my tools like this in this big husky bin. It's really handy just to keep everything nice and dry. Again, it's got a rubber gasket so you can throw it in the back of the truck, strap it down, and you don't have to worry about stuff getting wet. Tape measures. I like this Milwaukee 25-foot wide blade. 35-footers are nice, but 25-foot pretty much does 90% of the job. This one is the wide blade, and the reason the wide blade is so nice is because you can do this. You can stretch this thing out when you're working by yourself. You don't need someone to hold the other end of the tape measure nearly as much, because I can stretch that thing out almost. Let's see how far we can go before it breaks. Oh, come on, baby. Oh, and it broke. It broke at 13 feet. The thinner tape measures won't do that. They'll break way before 13 feet, and it just makes your job much more difficult when you're working by yourself. I like this better than the Stanley Fat Max because the clip on the back doesn't wear a hole in your pocket as much when you're clipping it on and off all day long. I also like a splitting maul like this because it's double duty as a sledgehammer as well. Obviously this one's been beaten and abused, whacked on the back of another splitting maul, and that's why it's all mushroomed out like that. But this is my sledgehammer. If I need to whack something, I need a heavy tool to hit something hard, this is what I go to. Absolutely got to have a speed square if you're doing any kind of construction projects. Hacksaw, have to have a hacksaw. Super crucial. I use this thing all the time. And I always buy the blades that have the double sides right there because they obviously last twice as long. Screwdrivers, Phillips head, flathead. Having just a regular old screwdriver like this I've found to be much handier, and I prefer it over the ones that have interchangeable bits. I thought, you know, that made the most sense at first, but I just don't like them as much. I end up losing the bits and they become useless at that point unless you replace them. So I just like a regular old screwdriver like this one right here. I think this is a number 2, and I like this handle shape a lot. It's got that kind of triangular shape. That's really good for getting a grip on. Your hand just fits around it nice, and it gives you a lot of torque on the handle. Channel lock pliers, very, very handy, good for all sorts of things. You need a good set of channel locks. An 8-inch crescent wrench. These are really handy. Again, used for all sorts of things. I grab this thing all the time for just miscellaneous projects. Now here's some more of my most used tools that I keep in my truck, actually, and here's a tool roll. My most used tools right here. It's just going to be a wrench set right there, metric wrench set. Everything from, I think, an 8 all the way up to 19, maybe 21, something like that. Razor knife, super handy for all sorts of things, especially when you don't want to dull up your really nice fixed blade knife that you keep on your hip every single day, like the On3 EDC from Bear Force Knives. You want to, you know, cut against some kind of metal or something like that. You don't want to damage your edge. It's nice to have a cheapo replaceable blade like that one. Pair of pliers with some side cutters. Use those all the time. Again, channel locks, wire strippers. Screwdriver, here is one of the ones with the multiple interchangeable bits. Again, not my preferred, but it is handy and easy to have there. And this screwdriver here, big flathead, I honestly, I don't use this as a screwdriver very often. It's usually a prying tool or I use this screwdriver right here to poke a hole in the oil filter on my truck when I'm taking it out. So that's generally what I use that for. Extensions, gotta have extensions for your ratchets and sockets. And then just a little pick tool. That's pretty handy to have when you just can't get in there with your fingers and you need something to get in there in a small little nook and cranny. And then I just have this inexpensive ratchet and socket set right here that gets the job done. It's a Husky right there. It's got standard size and metric sizes, most of the ones that I need, along with a bit that goes in my little impact driver that I keep in my truck. Now, a lot of people watching are going to be like, oh, anything less than snap-on tools is just not going to get the job done. Buy the best, buy once, cry once. Yeah, I get it. Like, quality tools is really important, but in my experience, I've done a lot of mechanicking. I've done a lot of working on trucks and tractors and motorcycles and all this stuff. And to be honest with you, the inexpensive Husky tools like these, doesn't have to be Husky, but the inexpensive tools like this, they get the job done, and I honestly really can't tell the difference between the more expensive wrench and the inexpensive wrench. I can't tell the difference between this 19 millimeter Husky wrench and a 19 millimeter snap-on wrench. I can tell the difference on the price. That's faux show. Like my brother, he's a professional mechanic, and he has a lot of really nice snap-on type tools, and maybe he can tell the difference because he's worked with them every single day and he knows them really, really well. I personally, I can't tell the difference, and you probably can't either. Now, obviously, the stuff I keep in my pockets, those are my most used tools, my EDC items. I use those all the time. But outside of that, outside of talking about, you know, like my EDC flashlight here, the one that I typically just clip on my hat and use like a headlamp, that's how I generally use that. That's really handy. But outside of that, this little Milwaukee rechargeable flashlight, this thing is great because you can just prop it up, sit it on the ground underneath the truck or something, or whatever it is you're working on in a small space, turn that puppy on, and it has 3 levels of brightness. and the battery lasts a pretty good while. It's super bright at nighttime. It's got a magnet on it so you can pop it to the hood of your truck or something. So I use this thing all the time, and the fact that it's rechargeable is really, really nice. Especially in the summertime, maybe not so much in the winter, but in the summertime, I use this machete, this Galavan machete, all the time. It is my go-to tool for whacking, slicing, and dicing, and chopping, and splitting, and stuff. It's what I use all the time. It's just a beater tool, and I really enjoy it just for that purpose. It's easy to maintain. It's razor sharp, easy to keep an edge on it, and it just gets the job done. And I used a sheath off of another cheap machete for it because I didn't have one. Hard to live without a bottle jack like this one. Just an inexpensive bottle jack. I forget what weight rating this one is, but you know, it lifts my truck no problem. I've used this for construction projects, for leveling up decks and houses and stuff. I've used it for all sorts of things. Just a bottle jack like this is a really, really handy thing. And if you're just getting started out and you need to invest in some quality tools, get a good quality bottle jack. My dog is after something. Let's go see what Maggie's going after up here. I could tell the difference between Maggie's barks. There's bark, let me inside. There's bark, there's somebody at the gate. And then there's a bark that says, I'm trying to attack something. What is it? What is it, girl? It's a possum. See it? Maggie and possums are mortal enemies. She hates them for some reason. But Maggie, let's leave it alone. Come on, it's not hurting anything. Come on, girl, let's leave it. Leave it. Go, girl, let's go. So I guess I would be remiss if I didn't talk about a protection tool for the Homestead. And my most used, the one I go for the most, that's not my EDC, is my 12 gauge. That's for sure the one that I would grab to solve a problem if something was after the chickens or a two-legged creature was after us. That's what I would go for more than anything else. I would say if you're only going to buy one, it's not an EDC type item, that's what I would get for sure. Just the most versatile, can solve the most problems. Whether you're hungry or in danger, it'll solve the problem. A bench vise, such as this one right here, that was my granny's. Really handy, use it all the time for various projects. Hard to live without a good quality bench vise, that's for sure. A bench grinder. A bench grinder, also super handy tool, useful thing. Man, I bought this thing, close to 20 years ago, and I have used it a ton, and I definitely do not regret owning a bench grinder. You will find a use for it, that's for sure. Get yourself half a dozen ratchet straps. There's all sorts of applications for ratchet straps, more than just tying stuff down in the back of your truck. All sorts of applications for these types of things. So get yourself a half dozen ratchet straps at least. Sawhorses. Got to have sawhorses. Here's just some homemade ones. The store-bought ones are fine. The ones with the adjustable legs, those are nice. I've got some of those as well. But I use sawhorses like this for all sorts of projects. Hard to live without sawhorses. My most used digging apparatus is this right here. This is I guess you'd call this a T-handled spade of some sort. This one actually came from Special Operations, so it's got some sentimental value as well. So I really like this shovel. This is the one that I use more than anything, more than the longer handled ones. This one only goes about hip high on me. But definitely if I'm grabbing a shovel to do some digging, this is the one I grab. The most used saw that I have is probably this actually. I probably use this equally as much as I do that skill saw, and definitely more than I use the chainsaw. This silky big boy here I use all the time. This is a firewood getting a trail clearing tool. It really, really works fast and efficiently. Almost forgot a really important one, and that's a ladder. This thing, while heavy and kind of a pain in the neck, is so versatile. This is a gorilla ladder, and it extends up to 14 plus feet. You can put it on stairs. It does all kinds of awesome stuff. So again, it's a little bit heavy, and a pain to use from time to time. It's a lot heavier than just a regular ladder, but man, it does stuff that just a regular ladder will not do. So for that reason, I wouldn't live without the this Gorilla ladder here. There's other companies that make ladders like that, but this one has been really good. So guys, these are my most used tools, the ones that I reach for on a pretty much daily basis. I'm into something in this pile right here. And if you're just getting started out, I would highly recommend having a tool kit such as this one. Obviously, I own a lot more tools, and for some purposes, a specialized tool is needed. But for the most part, what you see behind me, if you can't get it done with this, then you need to get more creative. So anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this in the comment section. What tools do you find so valuable that you couldn't live without? What's missing out of this pile right here? Love to hear that in the comment section. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I cannot wait to see you on the next one. Almost forgot, when I'm working around the garden, this is my favorite tool right here, this grub hoe. This thing is a heavy duty workhorse, and it chops through the roots, chops through the weeds, can do some light digging with it. Pretty handy tool right there. I'm Jason Salyer with Survival Dispatch. As a Survival Dispatch insider, you'll be able to gain the knowledge, the skills, and equipment necessary to protect your family when it really, really matters. They'll provide crucial information on such things as stockpiling food, medical necessities, communication plans. You will receive specific, actionable plans. You can deliver proven techniques to help you get home, shelter in place, or bug out safe.